Formula One finds itself in the middle of another financial regulations controversy, with two teams now caught up in what could turn into one of the biggest budget cap stories of the year. The FIA has been reviewing financial submissions from the 2024 season, and while one team has already admitted to a minor infraction, there are far more serious claims surrounding a second team that's reportedly gone over the actual spending cap. The situation first caught attention during the United States Grand Prix weekend when whispers started going around the paddock about possible budget cap problems, though nobody had any idea which teams might be involved. The initial clue came from the FIA taking much longer than usual to hand out cost cap compliance certificates, which typically gets done by September, but is now dragged on into late October. This delay immediately sparked questions about what the governing body might have discovered. Aston Martin has now come forward to confirm they're one of the two teams wrapped up in this investigation, though their case is fairly simple and not especially worrying in the bigger picture. The team has admitted to what's known as a procedural breach of the budget cap rules, meaning they didn't actually spend too much money but messed up the administrative side of things when sending their financial paperwork to the FIA. The problem boiled down to a missing auditor signature on documents that had to go to the FIA before the March 31st deadline. What separates this from a deliberate rule break is that the missing signature happened because of circumstances totally beyond Aston Martin's control. As soon as they got the signature sorted, they sent the paperwork in again and kept the FIA informed. Since Aston Martin's real spending came in under the budget cap limit and the breach was just about paperwork rather than money, the team went into what's called an accepted breach agreement with the FIA, where they admitted what went wrong. The positive outcome for Aston Martin is that, given the special circumstances and the fact that things were out of their hands, they haven't been hit with any punishment apart from paying for the investigation costs, which means no fines or cuts to their development time. The Aston Martin case probably won't cause much drama because it's obviously a paperwork mistake, rather than trying to cheat for a competitive edge. Most people around the paddock appear to get that these sorts of administrative problems can crop up even when teams aren't doing anything wrong. But the second team mixed up in this investigation is dealing with a far more troubling situation that could bring major consequences for how competitive they'll be moving forward. Various sources have told different media organizations that one team is accused of committing a substantial breach of the budget cap, meaning they didn't just get the paperwork wrong, but actually went over the spending cap that every team has to stay beneath. The basic budget cap stood at $135 million for the 2024 season. Although when you factor in inflation and other allowed adjustments, it came out closer to $165 million. The accusation is that this team, whose name we don't know, spent beyond that adjusted number. This is where the story gets particularly significant because going over the budget cap limit counts as a serious offense in Formula One. We've already witnessed what sort of punishments can get dished out for this kind of breach when Red Bull went over the cost cap during 2021. The tricky thing with budget cap regulations is that there are frequently unclear areas regarding what qualifies as spending and what can be left out or modified. So there's a chance that the team and the FIA just see things differently when it comes to how particular costs should be handled. The FIA's cost cap administration is still working through submissions from all 10 teams and the power unit suppliers. Based on a statement from the governing body, the findings should be shared in the near future. The adjudication panel that deals with these issues works behind closed doors, meaning there might be things going on that teams don't even know about. The FIA has been clear that it won't say anything about specific teams until the review of all submissions has been wrapped up and made final. What comes next really depends on whether the team dealing with the substantial breach accusations goes along with the FIA's conclusions or keeps fighting them. If they accept the breach by signing an accepted breach agreement, the FIA will figure out suitable penalties, which would probably include both a cash fine and a cut to development time along the lines of what Red Bull got. If the team keeps pushing back against the findings, the whole thing could stretch out for weeks or possibly months, while the adjudication panel goes through all the evidence and arguments from each side. For everyone else in Formula One, this situation brings up serious questions about how well the budget cap regulations are working and whether teams are discovering ways to test the limits of what's allowed. The budget cap was introduced to make things more equal and stop the richest teams from just spending more money than everyone else to get a competitive edge. But if teams can go over the limit and only get hit with fairly small penalties, it weakens the whole point of having the regulations there in the first place. The championship side of things is also important because if a team has been getting a competitive boost by spending too much, it makes you wonder whether the current standings really show fair competition. With Oscar Piastri out in front of the Drivers' Championship by 40 points over Max Verstappen and McLaren,